Get your mail. We're going to start at 7:40. Who's in charge back there on the video? 7:40 will go live. Okay? Anybody want to speak in a public forum? You need to sign in now. All board members, like as I said, sign in and get your mail. Thank you. So we're going to do this. Give them 10 minutes to get their act together. You got everybody sign in, John? How many we got on the public forum? We got 6 names, Walter. 2 minutes. Sometimes 6 is close. In between there, 2 minutes. I always say. Live streaming.
Whoa, how's your foot? Perfect. Looks good. Yeah, I'm good. I read your paper today. What's that? Dave Lindo. Can't get service down here at all.
I do, but I can't get into my damn email. Where are we live streaming? The live stream is on Facebook or where?
No, it's on our website. Check on our website.
I'll have to call you back. I'm at a meeting. Thank you. You've been out burning Teslas?
What?
You've been out burning Teslas?
No, but there was a funny thing on Jimmy Fallon. He did like the funny commercial that
Yeah.
Trump did that was hysterical. And, I saw Ernie from the Civic, the original Civic guy. He was telling me that you guys are good friends and that you were tennis club. I used to play tennis all the time. You might know my brother was.
Is he allowed to cross his legs like that? Is he allowed to cross his legs like that?
He said he is. He
Just
said
messed
he's
up his
okay.
We're late?
7:40. What time is it now?
35. Hey, you're getting liberal.
I want to entice people to come.
Good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16.
I was a ball boy at the Open. I was the treasurer of the Tennis Association. I sat in the president's bar. I mean, the tennis is my life.
Right now, I count 34.
I agree.
Oh, good.
34 out of 50, right?
48. We have 48. I exactly don't remember why, but I think it might have something to do with Sal Crafassi resigned and somebody else resigned.
38 Lane Bowling Alley, the tennis court. We used to play stickball with me and Holden and him and Oscar Benny and all.
Or moved. Might have been DeBrucker.
Yeah, we went way together. We did a lot of stuff together. Until I disagreed. Bob disagreed with me on something, and I was the end of it. It was so bad.
I said to Ola, she's in like, I want that first
One of
spot
my favorite guys in the world.
closest to the fence. And she's like in the parking, partially in the parking space I'm trying to go into. So I said, was this how they park in Texas?
No, in Coney Island.
That was a lot of fun.
We had a tree for my house. Yeah, and no, that's something else. That's the spam email.
I got 2 minutes, folks. Make sure you signed in. Got all your paperwork?
My house that it's what I did, and they had the 2 poles on each side. They came by 2 days ago, 2 other poles. They just chopped it and then left the poles sitting in the
Oh
ground.
yeah, I've seen that.
They just, when they took away the poles to support poles for the tree,
You know, I just did one.
they just left the poles sitting in there.
What is it?
The sticks that hold up a tree to support it. And they just chopped it off instead of pulling it out. Now I got this stupid thing sticking up. How lazy can you get?
These people come late to St. Paul.
1 minute.
Do you know, the double amputee, he died of cancer like 20 years ago? A friend of mine was a buddy.
I just wanted to come over and say hi.
Thank you. Okay, video, you go live. Thank you. Welcome to the regularly scheduled board meeting of Community Board 5. We're being live streamed, so if you don't want to be seen or heard, I'd suggest you leave now, okay? Because we don't control the cameras. We don't, the microphones, we do keep control somewhat over them, okay? So if you will please rise and join me with the Pledge of Allegiance. The flag is to my right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Thank you very much. The first order of business tonight is the public forum. Again, I remind you, please, no personal attacks, no foul language. Be civil. When your name is called, please approach the microphone. Since we have 6 listed, we're going to go 2 minutes. So once you start, you got 2 minutes, finish up. When you hear the bell, you're done. Okay? So the first speaker, I can't see. Katie Strom, from a Glendale resident, intro 606. Is that it, Katie? Explain it to us, please.
Hi, my name is Katie Strome. I live on 66th Street in Glendale. I'm a pedestrian and a cyclist, and I enjoy riding my bike around the neighborhoods in Community Board 5, as well as around the city, and to work in Manhattan when the weather allows. As someone who rides a bike around the city, I'm very familiar with having to navigate around e-bikes and share space with them in bike lanes. I am in favor of any legislative solution that will make walking and biking in the city safer for everyone, including people who ride e-bikes for work or for fun, and I do not believe that the system for licensing e-bikes as proposed in Intro 606 will be effective. I find this to be a very weak bill lacking in substance and foresight that will not help make our streets safer for anyone. This bill does not designate any funding for the DOT to establish and run this licensing program, so it will be hugely expensive because it's going to involve promoting the program, educating the public, in addition to manufacturing, printing, and distributing the plates, all of which will require hiring additional staff. With no funding to support this program, I don't understand how DOT is supposed to succeed in carrying out this law. The program will be a burden to taxpayers and create more bureaucracy, which will not translate into meaningful improvements. Also, police already have the ability to ticket e-bike and scooter riders who break the speed limit or break other traffic laws, just as they do with cars. They already pull people over and can ask for ID and issue tickets for breaking the law. And it's not clear to me how the addition of license plates will improve the system. I see cars run red lights and stop signs and speed through our residential neighborhoods every single day. These cars have license plates on them, and it doesn't seem to prevent people from breaking the law. I feel that infrastructure improvements such as protected bike lanes and wider bike lanes do far more to reduce the incidence of bikes on sidewalks, thereby improving safety for both cyclists and pedestrians and establishing a physical barrier between bikes and cars on the road. This allows more room for riders of both traditional bikes and e-bikes to safely navigate around each other and pass when necessary. Daylighting intersections also leads to incredible safety improvements because then all street users have improved visibility, whether they're driving, biking, or walking. There are many studies that demonstrate these results. I've noticed this is a huge issue on my block, and I frequently observe families with young children. Thank you for your time.
Don't go away in case we have a question. Any questions from the board members?
For me?
We understand the point she made. Just concise. You want control over e-bikes, is that correct?
I want infrastructure improvements that will make the roadways safer for people who ride e-bikes and analog bikes and pedestrians. I don't think that putting licenses on e-bikes is going to improve safety in
All
the
right,
way
one
that
of our problems is the e-bikes are riding on a sidewalk. How do we prevent that?
wider sidewalks and safer bike lanes so if people feel comfortable biking in the bike lanes and not having to ride their bikes on streets without bike lanes. It doesn't feel safe sometimes for people to do that.
So you're in favor of e-bikes, but with more controls. Any questions? Who's that? Who are you? Where are you from? Microphone, please.
Yes, Dory Figliola, Glendale. So you're not in favor of that, but if you have a license plate and you hit someone and you can be identified and tracked down, you're not for that? You don't think that they should have insurance and be responsible? Like on 88th Street, I saw a guy on an e-bike yesterday in a car, whip the bag and knock the kid on the ground.
I mean, I think cars are involved in hit and runs all the time, and there's a lot of people who aren't held accountable even if they do have license plates. I think the responsible people are going to stay and be accountable at the scene of an accident. I don't think that if someone knocks me down, I'm immediately in a place of mind to like take a picture of their license plate. They're able to drive off anyways.
But it would be the same difference.
Right, without any help from the license being there.
Okay. Yes, pass the microphone. Who are you? Where are you from?
Hi, Carol from Ridgewood. Thank you so much for your testimony. I just would like a point of clarification, maybe from the chair. Do we usually question people in public forum? Are we here to listen to and take their testimony into consideration?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
I'm not an authority on the topic. I'm just, yeah, speaking from my perspective.
Right, are we to question people during public forum? I don't think we've ever done that before.
Well,
Or are we here to listen to
I'm
and
trying to
consider
be
their
nice.
testimony? Yeah,
Okay.
I understand that.
Because we have 3 more people want to talk on the same subject.
Great, that's awesome. I'm
So it
looking
must
forward to
be,
it.
must be interesting,
Yeah,
okay?
thank you again.
If you're not, if you're done,
I'm done.
we'll go to Chloe Bergsma Safar on the same subject. Chloe? 2 minutes,
Okay, thank you. I'm essentially going to echo what,
microphone
sorry,
close.
can you hear me? Ooh,
Yeah.
all right, I'm not used to this. So yes, my name is Chloe. I'm a member, an active member of Ridgewood Rides, so I bicycle around CB5 regularly. So while I acknowledge that the greater number of e-bikes is leading to more collisions between e-bikers and pedestrians, I don't believe, like Katie mentioned, I don't believe that licensing e-bikes is an effective solution to creating safer streets. There are other large cities, including LA and Houston, that have implemented licensing of e-bikes and have later repealed these programs after determining them to be ineffective. Instead, I believe that our tax dollars should go towards solutions that have been proven to make streets safer, including, as Katie mentioned, more protected bike lanes so that e-bikes are not going onto sidewalks. And then there's also infrastructure around intersections to make it safer for people for bikes and walkers to avoid each other and therefore avoid collisions. Okay, I'm gonna go
So
sit down.
you don't believe that motorized vehicles should be registered and have insurance?
I don't think this program is the way to go about, no, not the e-bikes. I don't think this legislation,
An e-bike
Is going to-
technically is a motorized vehicle? Is that correct?
I don't think it's in the same category as other vehicles. Yeah.
Okay.
But I'm also not an expert, just a member of the public who likes to ride her regular bike around.
Okay.
Thank you.
On the same subject, Duncan Ballantyne, a Ridgewood resident.
Hey, good evening, everyone. My name is Duncan Ballantyne, resident of Ridgewood, live on Onderdonk Avenue, and involved with Ridgewood Rides, of course, regularly attending the Community Board 5 meetings. Just a couple of quick announcements from Ridgewood Rides. We're actually celebrating a milestone next Saturday, the 22nd, for our 100th community ride over the past few years, 100 rides. It's going to be led by the lovely Rachel, who's here tonight. Rachel's going to lead us on our 100th ride to Highbridge. Very excited for that. And then I also wanted to give comments as well on the Intro 606, which I understand the board is going to vote on this evening from the Transportation Committee. So the points that have already been made, I believe everyone, and including cars, pedestrians, bikes, everyone has the right to safely get from point A to point B without the fear of like getting hit or getting struck by a vehicle in collision. And there are more e-bikes on the road, that's for sure, but licensing just doesn't seem like an effective, efficient solution, particularly from like a logistical and administrative perspective. From a budget standpoint, asking the DOT, Department of Transportation, to become essentially a DMV and like build a whole new arm of somehow undefined enforcement and licensure just doesn't really seem to make any sense, and there's no funding for that. Additionally, I do want to make the distinction between an e-bike, electrical bicycle, and a moped. I think a lot of people throw around those terms and kind of interchange them, but you do see mopeds that are like Vespa style, you know, big bike that goes like really fast and it's like a big motorized thing. And then there's an e-bike, which is a bicycle that is pedal assist, has a chain, you pedal it, and a lot of people need that for accessibility to get around. And you know, there's just no sense in creating this wall to essentially access an e-bike, which is a clean form of transportation and very effective. So thank you all.
What is, don't go away. What is the top speed of an e-bike? You have no idea.
I have some idea, but I'm you know, I'm
Well,
a bit
they're
surprised by
asking
the
you,
questioning.
what is
by
the top
by the public.
speed of an e-bike?
You know, I ride an analog bicycle, but you can go 17 miles an hour on an e-bike,
An e-bike only moves at 17 miles an hour?
up to. They have speed, what's called a speed governor on it, so it just like caps out.
You have a comment? Who are you? What are you?
Rottenberg, Middle Village. First, e-bikes can go up to 30 miles an hour, you know, regular, and then you can modify them. And this is something that always irks me. Back in the 70s when mopeds first came out, think about what moped means, motorized pedal. Mopeds are the original e-bikes. E-bikes are not mopeds. Mopeds are motorized pedal vehicles, and that's what everybody calls e-bikes. So that's something that has irked me for a long
Thank you.
time.
So if a vehicle moves between 17 and 30 miles an hour, is that not a problem?
That's not
Potentially?
the issue that we're discussing, and to be frank,
I'm sorry?
that's not what we're discussing with like the speed limit in that regard, because it's like the e-bikes that are class 1 that are
Well,
street legal.
if I was out of this chair and pedaling my bicycle, I'd probably do 5 to 10 miles an hour.
I run my Strava app and I get up to 30 miles an hour on an analog bicycle descending the Williamsburg Bridge every single day. You know, I'm in good shape, but you know, bicycles, the issue about speed is undeniable, but like we need to have infrastructure and wider streets, more protected bike lanes. The only reason the mopeds are going up on the sidewalk is like when they're encountering a street that's jam-packed with cars in the first place.
Okay, thank you. On the same subject, Nellie Metcalf.
Hello, I'm Nellie Metcalf. This is my first community board meeting.
Oh, we won't be too harsh.
Yeah, go easy on me, please. So I live on 64th Lane in Glendale. Biking and walking are some of my main forms of transportation in the neighborhood and throughout the city. I recognize that there's a greater amount of e-bikes, and this is causing more crashes with e-bikes and pedestrians, and that's an issue. I don't think that licensing is an effective way to mitigate this issue. I think we have effective solutions, like all of my friends at Ridgewood Rides have mentioned. Daylighting, we can make more protective bike lanes. These are all proven solutions. We have cities that have studied the effectiveness of these bike licensing, and it seems to me that it's just going to create a bureaucratic mechanism that the city's going to have to administer. It's going to be very costly, and it's not going to make us safe or make our streets safe. I also can't really help but feel like this legislation is unfairly punishing the people who have to use e-bikes to do deliveries through these app services, and that we should be regulating the apps that these delivery workers are using, and regulating the apps that incentivize them for going faster to get people their takeout and their groceries faster. So I really hope that you'll consider voting against Intro 606 and focus on solutions that have been proven effective. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, speak. Come back. Wait.
Hi, I'm Betsy from Ridgewood. You mentioned daylighting. Could you explain what that is in terms of infrastructure?
Yeah, so creating less parking on intersections so that everyone can see better in those intersections, cars, bikes, pedestrians.
Yeah,
Thank
we
you.
are advocates for daylighting, but a good example of what you're saying is accommodate these vehicles they did in California. The more cars they had, they put in 14-lane highways and streets.
But now we have better
So at what point
solutions.
does it end?
Well, I think we have better solutions now than cars. We have more efficient ways of traveling, smaller ways that don't take up as much use, and more people can use these ways of getting around.
And the pedestrians need to get out of their way?
No, I think there are proven solutions like daylighting or creating more ways that we can use create bike lanes so that we can have more people biking.
Thank you. Same subject, Tucker Bielson. And Tucker, I'm going to ask you to explain what Intro 606 is.
Absolutely. My name is Tucker Zielson. I live and work in Ridgewood. I walk, I bike, I drive around Ridgewood. A couple things I want to note that haven't been brought up yet. Intro 606 is licensing e-bikes. It's also licensing electric scooters. There's a lot of different classifications in here. I have pulled up, you can find it on the DOT website, the different classes of electric vehicles, or electric e-bikes, class 1, class 2, class 3. Class 1, class 2, class 3, they're classified, they don't go over 25 miles an hour. E-scooters, same thing. This Intro 606, it wants to license e-scooters as well. Again, just to repeat the same thing, if we want safer streets, if that's really our goal, this is going to create a lot of bureaucracy. It's going to create a lot of work for the DOT. If we really want to focus on safer streets, if we're really concerned about collisions, then what we need to be doing is we need to be making safer street design. We need to make sure we have this space designated on the street for this increasing e-bike community to have a place where we know where they're going to be. We need to make sure, daylighting, absolutely. When I get off of work, I see families walking, I see students walking, I see workers walking. Intersections are the most dangerous place. Let's make sure we can see the e-bikes. Let's make sure we can see the bikes. Let's make sure we can see the people who are walking more visibly, including the cars that are causing most of the fatalities when it comes to collisions. At this point, you've heard a lot from us. I think those are the only new points I had to say. Thank you.
So, hold on. Who are you? What are you? Where are you from?
Glendale, and I'd like a question for the bicycle advocates. Why do you guys twitch so much when we suggest a little accountability? Why is that such a problem?
I think if we're talking about accountability, we can hold accountable our safer streets. Let's make streets that are designed to be safer. I don't think the accountability needs to be held towards setting up an entire system that's going to license, setting up an entire system that's going to hold all these different people from, again, other cities, countless other cities, LA, Houston, Toronto. All of them have enacted this same bill, and it's been repealed. So that's a lot of money, it's a lot of time, it's a lot of tax dollars that are now in those 3 cities. It's all been repealed.
Okay. On this side, who, what,
Hi,
when?
it's Carol again from Ridgewood. Thank you as well for your testimony. Our parliamentarian isn't here today. I've been a board member for 2 years. I've never seen us get into a debate with people during public forum. When did this become debate forum? Just curious about our rules there.
Just trying to get enough information so we,
Totally, I feel
this
like.
is a bill that's being introduced, I know nothing about. I don't know if anybody else knows
That
it.
seems like our responsibility as board members to do that research and be prepared for what's on the agenda
Okay.
and formulate our own opinions, not expect
Well
folks
taken.
participating in public forum to be experts on all aspects. They're here to share their personal testimony and not to be subject to debate.
Well taken. Over here. Did you turn it off?
Yeah, Lee Rottenberg again. Well, first, as a member of the Transportation Committee, we're going to describe what Intro 606 is when we present. I'm sure Eric will do a good job about that. The other thing is, one of the reasons we have safety issues with the motor scooters, I know, that we want to get licensed and registered, is that in order to drive a motor scooter, you don't need a motorcycle license. You need a car license. And I think that's totally incorrect. A motor scooter is more like a motorcycle than a car. And there's different rules. I have a motorcycle license, and there's different safety concerns that you have when you're riding a motorcycle than a car. So I think that would solve a lot of the safety issues. If in order to ride a e-bike or a motor scooter, you had to get a motorcycle license, I think that would help a lot.
Thank you. Any more on that subject? If not, we'll go to the next one. Oh, I'm sorry.
Vinny. My name is Paul Kersner. I live in Ridgewood. Lived on the same block all of my life, between Underdunk and Forest. I was the first person, long before all you young kids got involved with this, I rode my bike around the neighborhood until it became unsafe because of the cars. And Fred Hopley, the same thing. But if you come up my block on the left-hand side going up, you will see that I got DOT to put in a safety zone for bikes. And I did that back in 1975 or so. So we're way ahead of you on that. But the point that Lee's going to make, and I'm sure Eric is, you've got to have controls on these e-bikes. And the other thing that you have to know about e-bikes, the fires that these e-bikes cause if you keep them in homes, they're an electrical fire, and the fire department can't put them out. They have to let them burn down, and there's been a number of buildings in Manhattan that have gone up in flames because of that. And we had one in Ridgewood, okay? So they're dangerous, and that's why they have to be licensed. Thank you, Vinny.
Thank you. Nothing else? We'll go to the next speaker.
Yeah, hi.
Did I hear anybody? I can't, oh. Raise your hand so I could see. Yes, microphone.
Hi, Ken Rayberger, Glendale. Vinny, just an example where the people have said they are trying to be safe and all and give us suggestions, which is great. Drive south on Cypress Hill Street and make a right turn on 80 Avenue. The protected bike lane is there. Bikes and scooters or e-bikes, if they're going along, you better stop, because they're not going to stop when you're turning. And if there's a car in back of you, they could rear-end you. So it's not that these two-wheel vehicles are all, obeying the traffic laws. That's our biggest problem, I think.
Well, I think there may be a question. John, where are you? John, is it true that the bicycles have right-of-way on the, explain that to us, please.
I'm not sure why I'm being called on, but anyways, a straight moving vehicle of any type actually has the right of way. And in the state of New York, bicyclists are asked to be on the right side of the road. So what often happens is a bicyclist is going straight, but a car turning in another direction actually turns into them, and that is not allowed. So that's the only thing that I can tell you for sure.
The turning vehicle has to yield to
a straight moving vehicle.
Straight moving vehicle. So that's, and if you're familiar with Metropolitan Avenue in Williamsburg, they put in the dedicated bicycle lane. They have a safety lane and a traffic. They took away an entire lane of traffic because they have parking, they have protected bicycle, parking, and then traffic. Northern Boulevard in Douglasson, they basically have the same thing between the city line and approximately, I can't think of the street. But then, are we talking about taking away parking lanes to have dedicated bicycle, motorized bicycle lanes, or treat them as vehicles and let them go in vehicular lane? John?
Since you invited me up earlier, can I answer a couple of earlier questions you had? So it is the state of New York that regulates motor vehicles, because that was a question earlier.
Correct.
And so it's the responsibility of the state, not the city, to regulate motor vehicles. And these classifications that people have mentioned are all regulated by the state. And the state has determined which ones need licensure, which ones don't. And the mopeds and certain class of motorized vehicles have to have a license. And they now have corrected some of the earlier missteps where they allowed people to leave shops without a license. Now they have to have a license, like a car has to have a license when they leave a dealership, right? But it's a New York State responsibility. You asked that question earlier, and I just want to make sure you're aware. And this Intro 606 is actually designating the DOT with no funds to be a regulating agency for motor vehicles in the city of New York of a specific slice and a very small part of the population. So
Thank you. Who are you? Where are you from? Microphone. Microphone.
Hello. All right. Eric Buckowitz, board member from Middle Village and Transportation Committee Chair. I motioned the table discussion as a point of order until the Transportation Committee presents its report later in the meeting on this exact matter.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go to the next speaker is Catherine Perko, supporting universal daylighting.
Hello. Oh, sorry. Hi. Hi, my name is Catherine. I live in Ridgewood on Bleecker Street. I'm a pedestrian and a car owner, and I am fully in support of doing everything we can to make our streets safer, beginning with universal daylighting. Every single intersection, having that clear space where there's no car blocking the street. I used to be a bike rider, but I've never ridden my bike in New York because I had a friend who got killed by a truck riding her bike. The streets have always been dangerous to me in New York, as a pedestrian and as a bicyclist. As a car driver, I don't drive a giant SUV, and I am, as you can tell, not a very tall person. I find it very difficult to drive safely when my points of view are being blocked by the very big SUVs that crowd our intersections. I fear for my own life. I fear for the life of the children who are running around in streets. It is simply not safe. I park my car on the street. I'm willing to walk several blocks to my home from where I can find a parking spot. That is a small price to pay for safety. I don't understand why people think they have a right to park for free on the street. I don't think that I do. Having a car is a privilege, not a right. And it's a privilege that we should pay for. And it's a privilege that other people shouldn't have to pay for with their lives and their safety and their limbs. So I don't know of any good argument against or for doing daylighting in some places, but not others. To me, the logical, sensible thing to do if we care about ourselves and we care about our community is to create universal daylighting and to actually enforce it. I'm not going to talk about the e-bikes thing, but I will say what I notice in my neighborhood and all of New York City is that there are a lot of people who may have licenses and license plates, but they're associated with other states because they're doing insurance fraud. And I don't see any enforcement of that whatsoever. So I see a lot of cars on our street taking up parking spots, and they're violating the law every day. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. So the Transportation Committee will look into that. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to do the attendance in case we have something to vote on. So, Michael Bick is not here. Maritza Carmona is not here. Robert Cimelli is not here. Ethan Chan is not here. Patricia Crowley had, she's not here, but she had some problems. Okay. Fred Haller is not here. He also is recuperating from some things today. Marianne Latanzio is not here. Kathy Massey is not here. Melissa Rebecca is not here. Enriquez Rosa is not here. Gainal Thapa is not here. And Brandon Zwagaman is away on business. He's not here. Okay. So next item of business, again, is the chairperson's report. That's me. I'm Vincent Arcuri. If you need to throw rocks or anything on the guy that you aim for. I'd ask John Meyer to do the, well, first thing is minutes. Has everyone reviewed the minutes? Any corrections, objections? All in favor of the minutes? Motion to accept the minutes. Second? Yell. Second. Name. Thank you. Okay. John, would you do the liquor license and building items, please?
Hello, folks. Reading into the public record are liquor, wine, beer, and license applications and renewals. New liquor license notifications that we received was Olivares Mex LLC, doing business as Ridgewood Taco Factory at 6689 Forest Avenue, Ridgewood. That's a restaurant, and they are also seeking a temporary retail permit. Liquor license renewals, it's a big month on Fresh Pond Road. Pergioni V&P Corp. doing business as Mon Cherie at 6414 Fresh Pond Road. That's a restaurant. B&B Espresso Bar, Inc., 6607 Fresh Pond Road, Ridgewood. That is also a restaurant. Taqueria Kermes, Inc., at 6636 Fresh Pond Road. That is another restaurant. Minder Binder Enterprises, LLC, doing business as Milo's Yard at 564 Seneca Avenue, Ridgewood. That is a food and beverage business. House of Carne, Inc., doing business as Otra Casita Mexicana at 6621 Fresh Pond Road is another restaurant. The Serbian Association of New York, Inc., 7254 65th Street, Glendale. That is a club. We have 2 new wine, beer, and cider licenses this month. Pizza Pasta Rigo Park, LLC, doing business as to be determined. That's 63118 Woodhaven Boulevard in Rigo Park, New York, and that's a restaurant. And My Sushi 1994 Inc., doing business as My Sushi, 7920 Elliott Avenue, Middle Village, New York. I believe that's already an operating sushi restaurant. I believe it's changing ownership. There are no wine, beer, and cider renewals this month, and we had one other notification of a class change. They're seeking to go from a wine, beer, and cider to a full liquor license, and that is Miyama New York, Inc., doing business as Miyama at 349 St. Nicholas Avenue, Ridgewood, which is a restaurant. If you have anything, feedback or anything, send it into the board office. We will gladly accept any highlights and acknowledgement that a establishment is a problem location, so please do.
Thank you, Todd.
Yep. Do you want demo? and construction now. So we have 3 notices that we received this month. One is in Maspeth. It's a garage and house demo notification for 6701 53rd Road. That is block 2406, lot 41. None in Middle Village, none in Glendale, and 1 construction notification in Ridgewood at 6605 Forest Avenue. It's a 4-unit, block 3498, lot 10. And we have 5910 Catalpa Avenue, which is going to have some interior demolition and some construction inside. It's a landmark district, block 3506, lot 5. So if you have any feedback on any of those, please let us know. And if you have any issues that should be brought to the buildings department, please reach out to the office.
Thank you. So with us tonight, besides John, and Gary Giordano is our district manager. Kathy O'Leary's been a little under the weather, so she's been out, but she's sends her regards. I want to recognize if there are any elected officials with us or their representatives. So the Borough President's office, we have, I can't read it. Kevin.
So
Claire.
my name's actually Claire.
That's
hi.
not what's here.
Oh, maybe my handwriting's bad.
So tell us who you are.
Oh, Kevin's from the mayor's office. Kevin, do you want to go first? Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. I'm not Claire. Kevin Morris, Queensborough Director for the Mayor's Community Affairs Unit. Just one very quick announcement. Mayor Adams and our DSS Commissioner, Molly Park, recently announced the first phase of the full transition of the Fair Fares program to Omni, the MTA's contactless fare payment system. So this switch is going to make it easier for working class New Yorkers to manage their transit funds, and it's going to ensure that no Fair Fare client will ever pay more than $17 a week to ride the MTA. Now, of course, we are doing this because New York City is a city that is highly reliant on public transportation, and we are trying to do our best to make sure that we are giving equitable fare to all New Yorkers. So for anyone who is interested in using the program, you can apply online, you can call in to the Fair Fare system, you can go to any of the local stations where they have programs that you can apply for as well. So that is my major announcement for tonight. And of course, I'll just be sitting here for the rest of the night to make sure that we are hearing your needs and complaints and your concerns, make sure that we are addressing them. So thank you so much.
Thank you. We have no one from the Controller's office, no one from the Public Advocate's office, from the Borough President's office, Claire.
What's up? Okay, so events. March 26th, Wednesday at 6 p.m., we're going to have our Irish American Heritage Cultural Celebration, which is going to be at Queensborough Hall. And then on Thursday, April 6th at 12 p.m., we're hosting the salute ceremony for the Gold Star spouses. And then on Thursday, April 3rd, we're also hosting our, wait, hold on. I can't see. Okay, sorry. And then we're also hosting our college and university fair, which is at Richmond High School. And yeah, those are all of our events. You can RSVP at queensbp.nyc.gov. Thank you.
And what about St. Joseph's Day?
That wasn't on the script they gave me, Vinny.
Yes, question, comment? Who are you? Where are you from?
Well, Michael O'Kane from Glendale once again. I wonder if you could explain to those of us who don't know what a Gold Star spouse
Oh
is.
yeah, good question.
Thank
That's somebody who lost their spouse in combat, so someone who was serving the country and
Spouse, child?
yeah. Yeah, sorry, yeah, that's someone. I actually had to look it up myself, so yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
From the District Attorney's Office, Kate? Are you there, Kate?
Good evening, everybody. On March 7th, DA Cass announced that Lise Rosopoulos had been charged with grand larceny and criminal possession of stolen property for scamming senior citizens out of more than $500,000 in a nationwide elder fraud scheme. The victims received phone calls from a co-conspirator who pretended to be a government official and convinced them to send money to banks in Queens and upstate New York. She was arraigned on 2 counts of grand larceny in the second degree and 2 counts of criminal possession of stolen property in the second degree. If convicted, she faces up to 5 to 15 years in prison. According to the charges, on February 23, 2023, a 92-year-old resident of a healthcare facility in Hawaii received a phone call from someone purporting to be a government official from the Federal Trade Commission. The caller said the woman's identity had been stolen, her bank accounts were not secure, and that to avoid losing all her funds, she must wire money to a Chase Bank branch on Main Street in Kew Gardens Hills. The caller threatened that the victim's children would be arrested if she told anyone about the situation. Between February 28th, 2023 and July 17th, 2023, the woman sent a total of $446,000 through 18 wire transfers to the Chase account in the defendant's name. In May 2023, an 83-year-old Kentucky man received a phone call from someone who called himself Mike from Amazon and asked if the victim had recently purchased Apple earbuds. The man said no, and then the caller told him that his identity had been stolen and he needed to immediately secure the money in his bank account. The victim received a second phone call from someone claiming to be from the Federal Trade Commission who gave instructions to wire money to a TD Bank branch in Hyde Park, New York. Between June 13, 2023 and July 11, 2023, the victim sent a total of $101,980 to the account through 4 wire transfers. This investigation was conducted by the Queens District Attorney's Office in close cooperation with Homeland Security Investigations, New York El Dorado Task Force Economic Crimes Group, and the New York State Department of Financial Services. Thank you. And be careful.
Thank you. We have no one representing Nydia Velasquez. She's busy protesting against Israel. No one representing Grace Meng, likewise. It's interesting, they're all protesting Israel.
Protesting for Palestine.
For Palestine, yes, pro-Palestine, I'm sorry. No one here from Councilmember Holden's office. Representing Councilmember Areola is Linda Fogel.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Linda Fogel from Councilwoman Joanne Areola's office. I'll try to make it as brief as possible. I have flyers to some of the things that I'm going to announce on the table. Last week, the Councilwoman attended a budget hearing. She's trying to fight for more money for the fire department, the police department, and schools in her area. She thinks that there's a lot of waste going on. She wants to recoup that and have it put back in her community. Intro 1126 is a bill that requires the Department of Sanitation or another agency designated by the mayor to distribute the waste bins to owners who are eligible. If you haven't already purchased one, they're going to try to give you one, and that's going to be somewhere down the road. Nothing has been set in stone. If you already purchased a bin, they're going to set up a program where you will be reimbursed. So if you did purchase it, make sure you try to find your receipts and hold on. The eligible homes are anybody that is eligible for STAR or Enhanced STAR. So that's that. Councilwoman has also spoken to the Sanitation Department and the Department of Transportation about the 80th Street Bridge. It's always full of debris. They're going to be putting that on their rotation cycle, so it's cleaned up periodically so that no one has to think that their community is being trashed. Events, there's an e-waste event April 5th, 10 to 2, 159th Street at PS 206. Night at the Opera, flyers are on the table. April 15th, 7 p.m., Russo's on the Bay. That does require reservations. Friday, May 23rd, anybody who has grandchildren or just want to get out for the night to enjoy a movie, There's going to be a movie in Dry Harbor Playground. It's the Disney movie Up. That requires you to bring your own chair. Flyers are on the table. I'll be here until the end of the meeting, and Gary, I'll send you the report tomorrow.
Thank you. Yes.
I have a quick question.
Who are you?
I'm Don Passantino from the Community Board there. I had a quick question for the speaker there. The Department of Sanitation is supposed to pay for all these pails. The mayor has to sign the bill first. Do you know if the mayor signed the bill?
As of now, nothing is set in stone. They're in the works, and to be honest with you, we don't know when that's going to be taking. If anything does take place, it will be by April 1st, 2026.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. No one here from Councilmember Gutierrez? Representing Senator Adabo is John D'Angelo.
Good evening, everyone. Again, my name is John D'Angelo from State Senator Adabo's office. The senator sponsored two pieces of legislation which were approved by the Senate and are waiting for approval by the Assembly. The first one is notice must be given at least 14 days in advance before any construction is done within 300 miles of a school. This way they can kind of make preparations and kind of know what's going on.
You want to repeat that? I
Sure.
didn't understand.
Okay. 14 days notice must be given before commencing construction within 300-foot radius of any building used for student
I thought
instruction.
you said mild, I'm sorry.
Oh, if I did, I apologize. All right, sorry about that. The other one was similar. Utilities, are we going to be required to give a 45-day notice before announcing increases? So I guess like, with our Con Ed upcoming increase, okay? And just upcoming events, the last weekend, the last Sunday in April, the first Sunday in May at the Forest Park Band Show. They're both 10 to 2. The first one is paper shredding, household good collections for veterans. The second one is the e-waste collection and paint disposal. And then last but not least, in conjunction with Assemblyman Hevesey's office, Community Service Day cleanup at the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Garden. That's going to be April 5th from 10 to 2. All supplies provided. And again, any questions, I'll be here till the end. Good?
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Representing Senator Gianaris is Anthony Campos. If I mix that up, please correct me.
Yes, at Ziri Campos.
At Ziri.
I'm representing Senator Gianaris. I just wanted to update you since we received a couple of emails from Community Board 5 members about our previous Real ID DMV events. We had two in the past, one in Maspeth and one in Ridgewood within Community Board 5. We're currently working with the DMV to have more events within our district. As soon as we have dates and locations, we will let you all know. The way we do it is we send an email blast to everyone in our email list. So if you're not on our email list, you can email us at gianaris@nysenate.gov, or you can email me personally at campos, C-A-M-P-O-S, @nysenate.gov, and I'll also get you on the list. For any other concerns, you can contact us at 718-728-0960. Thank you.
Thank you. No one here representing Assemblymember Hevesey. Representing Assemblymember Raga is Dolma Lama.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. My name is Dolma Lama. I'm the district director at the Office of Assemblyman Stephen Raga. He's still up in Albany because of the session, but I do have a few updates for you. So New York State Assembly has passed the One House budget resolution for 2025 to 2026. Some of the things that Assemblymember Raga championed and that we were able to secure were $750 million for Michelama preservation, 100 million for Michelama operating cost. What we have also been pushing for is universal school lunch for students, which got included in the resolution, and also proposing 2 billion increase in foundation aids for our schools. We are still discussing and analyzing the budget, but as you know, as new updates become available, I will be reporting it back to you. On the event sides, we are continuing to do the free tax preparation at our district office. So if your income is under 93,000, please feel free to make an appointment with our district at our district office at 718-651-3185. It's free of cost. We have tax preparers, at least 3 of them, who come to our district office every Saturday to file for taxes. It gets sold out every single time, so just make your appointment. We recently did partner with Department of Finance and did the homeowner benefits programs enrollment, applying for SHE programs. We also, today, we did a health screening program in partnership with United Way, NYC at Jackson Heights. We also hosted MTA Fair enrollments at Jackson Heights today. So we had like 2 back-to-back events today. What's coming up is Women of Distinction. We're having our Women of Distinction celebration on Saturday, March 22nd from 1 to 4 p.m. at Elmhurst Hospital Auditorium. The actual program will be 2 to 3:30. And we're also co-sponsoring Maspeth Federal Bank's e-waste recycling event. So if you would like to recycle anything that's e-waste, please come to Maspeth Federal parking lot on April 12th. We have given the time of like 1 to 4 p.m. Plus, please feel free to call our office if you have any questions. Lastly, we're also, now that the weather is getting nicer, we're having our Earth Day of Action as well. So we're beginning our community cleanups. And we are beginning from, as we're doing e-waste recycling in Maspeth, we will be doing cleanups in Woodside, Jackson Heights, and Elmhurst. And this is going to be one of our biggest day of action. And this is scheduled for April 19th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Thank you, and have a wonderful evening. If you have any questions, I'm here throughout the night. Thank you.
Thank you. Representing Assemblymember Valdez is Carlos Munoz. Carlos?
Hello, nice to meet everyone. This is my first Community Board 5 meeting. We just got into office 2 months ago, so we're trying to get our bearings. I'll be attending the Community Board 5 meetings on a regular basis, coming on until June when we go on hiatus. For events, we hosted a pop-up office in the Ridgewood Library from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. We're going to host one next month in Ridgewood, and we're planning one at the Maspeth Library as well. We also had a Know Your Rights training with Make the Road last month in Sunnyside. We're trying to host another one, and then we're also planning on hosting a fire safety training event with FDNY. There's been a few fires in the district, so we're trying to inform people about precautions with leaving their ovens open during, a cold winter. Yeah, I'll be here all night as well. We're planning more events in the near future, so I'll send information to Community Board 5. If you have any questions, I'll be in the back. Thank you.
Thank you. Representing Assemblymember Raj Kumar, Anna Sargent.
Hello, Community Board 5. I am Anna Sargent from the Office of the Assemblywoman Jennifer Rajkumar. I would like to wish everyone a happy Lent, a happy Ramadan, a happy St. Joseph's Day, a happy Purim, and also a happy upcoming St. Patrick's Day. With those festivities and days of somber religious ceremony out of the way, I would like to talk a little bit more about the efforts of the Assemblywoman. She is up in Albany for session. Last week, last week, the Assemblywoman passed Bill A4751A, which is to help veterans with disabilities get employment. They put everything on the line for us, and it is only fair that the state make sure that they live in dignity. We are also the champions of quality of life issues, and the Assemblywoman hosted 2 rallies today in support of her package, Priscilla's Law, A339A, which requires e-bikes to have licenses. We held 1 rally this morning in the city and another one in Albany in the afternoon. We co-hosted this with the New York City E-Vehicle Safety Alliance. They represent victims of e-bike collisions. 92 of the 98 victims that they represent were struck in a hit-and-run incident where they do not necessarily know who struck them, and there has been no recourse for them. Otherwise, in terms of events, Tuesday, March 25th, 9:45 a.m. to 2:45 p.m. at our office, 8391 Woodhaven Boulevard. We are hosting another mammogram screening day. It's a very popular event. Appointments are first come, first served, so do call our office at 718-805-0950 to schedule. The second event that we're hosting is actually in the beginning of April. It's April 10th, and it is through NILAG. It is for free legal services. This is for civil and not criminal things. They have very specific rules, so you would have to call our office or email us also to set up an appointment. It would also be at our office, 8391 Woodhaven Boulevard, and the phone number is still 718-805-0950. Thank you.
Yes, who you are, where you from?
Daniel Heredia from Ridgewood. Thank you so much for the report. Could you just restate what was the organization you partnered with for the rallies?
Yes, it is, let me just pull it up so I know I got it right. The NYC EVSA, which is called the New York City E-Vehicle Safety Alliance.
Thank you. No one representing Assemblymember Cruz. As far as the 104th precinct, have a report. 2024 versus 20. I'm sorry?
Patrick Trinchese is giving that report.
I can't, are you going to give it, Patrick? Under what committee is that? Okay. Hold on, I'm sorry. You have all this information, Patrick?
All the board members got a copy of it.
Okay. All right, that's, I'd like to welcome Derek Jasmine from the City Planning Commission is with us. Anything else for me? That's it. Anyone have any questions or comments for the chair? If not, I'll turn it over to the district manager, Gary Giordano.
Good evening, everyone. This is Women's History Month, so, and the women are doing wonderful, especially compared to the men. Yeah, it's true. It's true. In the future, they're going to have a lot of our leadership positions simply because they're doing better in school. They live longer. And I'm a believer, and I'm not trying to cozy up, but you know, men have done a lot of amazing things and really bad things, right? A lot of the men have done the inventions and caused a lot of the trouble. But thank God for the women, because they've been the stability of society, at least in this country. But we have a big problem these days with abuse of women. And I don't have this scripted, but for instance, sexual assault and rape are up significantly in this precinct and others. In this precinct, and Patrick will, well, you have those numbers in front of you. So the numbers aren't high, but
I think sexual assault and/or rape are up like 50%, right? Which is very significant. So when I ask the precinct, like, what's going on with that, they reply that all of those instances, or more than 90% of those instances, are people known to each other. So, you know, it's not like somebody's getting mugged or something like that in this precinct. But you read the newspapers to some extent. I hope you read the newspapers, because in too much of the country, too many of the people are getting their news from one news source that is not news. Let me put it to you that way. So that's a big concern of mine. But God bless the women, and women's history is very important. Her story, so to speak. Police officers. Patrick will give the report for the Public Safety Committee. He's the vice chair. So I think there's been some questions about whether we need more police officers. And we're down to, and Patrick, I think you even have lower numbers than I had in front of me, but we're down to like 136 police officers for the 104th precinct. And that is about the lowest number that I can remember in my time at Board 5, which is, I'll be district manager 36 years come July. And what that means is slower response to 911 calls and more difficulty doing any enforcement whatsoever. So we want to talk about people parking at hydrants and that sort of thing. Difficult to get that enforcement when officers are overwhelmingly responding to 911 calls. So in our preliminary budget responses, I make no apologies for it, I asked for an additional 40 police officers for this precinct. But the number of police officers citywide is down. They're having difficulty recruiting police officers. A lot of police officers feel that they are being overworked and disrespected. And I'm also of the opinion, don't get me wrong, I don't want a police state, and there are people in every profession, including the police department, who shouldn't be in the profession they are in, whatever percentage of people that is. But the overwhelming majority of police officers, from everything I've ever seen, are hardworking, caring, and diligent, but they have a tough job. So traffic enforcement is more difficult when you don't have police officers. Summonsing is more difficult when you don't have enough police officers. So if you, and in the toughest neighborhoods in the city, the people who are involved in civics usually want more police officers. Ongoing problems we have with illegal dumping. I'll give you, for instance. I call sanitation last week. I tell them about dumping on Otto Road. A lot of the reason we have dumping problems in our neighborhoods is because we have a lot of freight rail where there are no eyes across the street, or it's the side of a house across the street. So I tell them about dumping on Otto Road, and then today I pass, and in the same place where they cleaned up last week, the dumping reappears. And a lot of continuing problems with people abusing litter baskets with their household garbage on commercial strips. Right, Mr. Renz? If it wasn't for the Myrtle Avenue Business Improvement District, I remember when Myrtle Avenue looked pretty darn seedy. So Ted, thank you, and Ann and Susie for all you do. Because, you know, Myrtle draws a lot of people, right? And it's, I mean, when the fair was on Myrtle, my mother used to get me to drive her from Maspeth to go to the fair, for instance. So that's how well Myrtle does. But
having a community board that really cares and sometimes knows who to go to faster than me is very helpful.
well, that's hard to believe, but okay. Another concern, and people seem to be bored at what I'm telling them. So I'll try to be brief, okay? Because I could go on. And I'll make one statement and see if I can be stopped or who wants to hear me. Reservoirs. Kevin, you're out there? All right. So, Kevin, I'll say it bluntly. I remember when the Mayor's Community Assistance Unit was really a force. And I told you this. And Paul, maybe you remember because you're around a long time. A lot of the reason why Board 5 has done very, very, very well, and we don't brag about it, okay? Like maybe $50 million in sewer projects in the last 5 or 6 years. An $80 million sewer project. Our get, nobody's given us no allocation, our get in the open market, so to speak, convincing the agencies that we need certain things. An $80 million sewer project is planned for Eastern Glendale. Most of it along 77th Avenue, which is the bottom of the hill, where all the water cascades down from Forest Park and Myrtle Avenue and winds up in people's homes to the tune of 2 feet high. So that project will not only be 78th Avenue, but will also go into Rego Park, I believe. I haven't seen the design plans yet. We got the bridge reconstructed at Metro and Fresh Pond, another $15 million. This year, we got Wyckoff Avenue resurfaced from Myrtle all the way to Cooper. We got DOT to resurface Palmetto Street, even between the pillars of the train, that support the train. So we're not here to mess around. We don't have too many bars that are a problem, and if we do, we've worked really hard to get them shut down. We have a problem with a place called El Manaba that's located on St. Nicholas Avenue near Wyckoff Avenue. But I'll make a quick statement to you. With all the things that are going on, I don't know it locally and how we lobby for this and that, and we're getting sewer projects and we're getting this and that. I'm really upset about the state of our country and the fact that, we have a chief executive in our country who pardons people who attacked our seat of government, and then the first move that's made is to do away with aid to places like Africa for food and for nutrition, and then pulling out of the climate accords like there's no global warming, it's a hoax, and last time pulling off the EPA website anything related to global warming. And this, to me, dwarfs anything I'm working on. And the head of the education department is the former director of the World Wrestling Federation. I mean, what kind of respect for our country is this? And the list goes on and on. Pulling out of the World Health Organization. So in our own self-interest, we will not know what diseases originate wherever, right? Ebola came out of Africa and that sort of thing. So I'm very concerned. And I find myself, I don't know about the rest of you, listening to the news in the morning and like pacing back and forth. I thank you.
Okay. We'll go to committee reports. The first committee is Park Services. Do we have a report?
Listen, it's brief, it's always brief, don't worry about it. It's fast. So we had a Park Service Committee up at,
You could try giving them a microphone. I failed so many times. Come on, use the microphone, please. Because it records on the tape.
all right, so, Stephen Fiedler, Parks Chair, Community Board 5, how we doing? All right.
You gotta turn it on.
I told you,
and talk into it.
Yes, yes, okay. So real quick, we had a Parks Committee meeting at Mufara. It went very well. They're doing, city agency, which city agency? Gary, which city agency is doing turf over?
They call it citywide, but it's a division in the Parks Department.
Citywide agency, but again, Parks Department is doing the artificial turf over in the back. The softball field is getting the water retention tanks in, okay? So that's getting done, then that'll be new asphalt and everything else. There are finally a bunch of parents in the neighborhood who are now starting to play hockey on the hockey rink. So we're gonna have to look at that down the line because that needs a lot of work too. Then we go to the Ridgewood Reservoir. What we're trying to do here is that we already have the historical from the state of New York. We got that in 2018. Now we're trying to get the wetland designation because in 2017 or 18, again, we got this board, an H2O, a company that takes school children, junior high school children to see the waterworks through New York City, okay? And the Ridgewood Reservoir is falling under their path now, and they've done a ton of work up there already, okay? So we're trying to get a Class 1 wetland, but the problem is parks don't want to put out a lot of signs. They just want to put out one or something else. So the thought was to get this classification put down, they would combine a historical sign with this. That's a historical sign that's on a staircase going up right now. You don't combine something with that, all right? You got to put another sign. So what we're doing is asking for a letter for a recommendation from the board, okay, to put some kind of designation Class 1 for the Ridgewood Reservoir on the other side of the staircase. So now everybody knows that it's a Class 1, and that means that the reservoir can never be touched again, all right? It will be as is forever, all right? Now, it was pending in 2018, and we still don't know when they made it final, because if we're going to make a sign, we got to have all of this information up. So in the process, we're trying to get letters from the board, Councilman Holden, Salazar, anybody else I can go to get a letter. If you know anybody who is of distinction or whatever, call Gary, get a letter, put it on file, and then we're gonna attack city parks and get what we need to take care of the reservoir. Okay? Anything else? Bye.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
Okay, so we're going to take a vote on it right now and see if we can get confirmation
What
for
are
the
we
letter.
voting on?
Paul, 1 second.
Not tonight, but someday.
Oh, yeah.
Identify yourself.
Hold on, Paul. Hold on, Paul. He's making a motion, so let him finish.
All right, fine.
What's your motion?
Motion for recommending a letter from the board for the sign.
For what?
For the sign for the Ridgewood Reservoir, wetland Class 1.
Okay. On the question. Mr. Kurz, do you have something on that question?
No,
Okay, thank you.
not on this. But in the future, if people would like to know the history of how the Ridgewood Reservoir was built, I'd be happy to tell it to you.
Thank you.
I believe
Okay,
that, Paul.
so read the motion, Mr. Giordano.
Well, I don't have a motion. Mr. Fiedler, don't leave. You are the chairperson of this committee, and it's your motion, it's not my motion, okay? So, my understanding is that the motion that Mr. Fiedler is making on behalf of the committee, right, which doesn't need a second, is for additional signage to be put, we're really talking about one or two signs, at the Ridgewood Reservoir, stating that this reservoir has designated wetland status. We're really having to do this because the Parks Department doesn't want to put up too much signage. And I'll say this, a group called NYCH2O, and I hope that Council Member Ariola's staff person is hearing me, has done an amazing job at the Ridgewood Reservoir. And this is a place that is the closest thing to a nature preserve that we have anywhere near us or in Brooklyn. And it's Board 5 that did a lot of the work to get these designations and to get the renovations that have been done at the Ridgewood Reservoir done, to the tune of $10 million for new lighting around the reservoir, new pathways around the reservoir, new fencing around the reservoir, and a big handicap access ramp to go up there. Paul, don't interrupt me, please. So, but they don't want to put up too much signage, okay? And that's the issue here. But what NYCH2O has done with regard to the Ridgewood Reservoir is outstanding. They have gotten grant money, Matt Molina and these people, to bring like 6,000 kids there in different class tours to learn about the Ridgewood Reservoir. 100 species of birds, at least, nest there in the springtime. It is absolutely gorgeous, and you can get there via Cypress Avenue to Vermont Place. It's really the only way to really get there by motor vehicle. There's a parking lot. It's part of Highland Park, and any way that NYCH2O could be supported is important because they are doing a lot of maintenance at the Ridgewood Reservoir too, and getting volunteers to do the maintenance at the Ridgewood Reservoir. And there's a big Phragmites problem in Basin 2, and they have done more than anybody else to do away with the Phragmites there. So, but that's my plug for NYCH2O. But the vote is with regard to the appropriate signage for the wetlands designation at the Ridgewood Reservoir, okay? Is that true, Mr. Fiedler?
You're on point.
Okay. You ready? Okay. Mr. Arcuri. Carol Benovic Bradley. Jessica Boyardi. Eric Buckowitz. Rachel Karachi. Deepak Chowdhury. Elizabeth Chen. Walter Clayton. Dimitro. Steve Fiedler. Dory Figliola. Matty Gonzalez. Gail Grabowski. Daniel Heredia. Chris Herman. Fred Hofferly. Paul Kersner. Diego LeCleary. Ed Latow. Naho Matsuzawa. Charles Ober. Peggy O'Kane. Michael O'Kane. Don Passantino. Ken Rayberger. Ted Renz. Luis Rodriguez. Lee Rottenberg. Walter Sanchez. Lily Scarabino. Dennis Steffen. Katarzyna Sita. Barbara Toscano. Patrick Trinchesi. Jasmine Valley. Mariana Zero. Get everybody? Thank you.
Walter, hello. One second. Walter Sanchez has a
Walter
comment.
Sanchez, Mass. Steve, if cost is in the way, if they say, well, the cost or the time, I'll talk to the Forest Park Trust, we'll pay for it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
The only other thing I'd like to add.
Microphone, please.
The only other thing I'd like to add is H2O again. We're talking about them. They've done a tremendous job. And since 2018, they've been trying to get some kind of, what's the license called, Gary?
They want to get a licensing agreement.
A licensing agreement with New York City Parks to do things that they're doing in the reservoir. And in 2018, we voted to back that up, all right? And it still has never happened, okay? So they're still trying. If anybody ever hears anything about it, or if you want to go on their website or anything to check them out, without them, the place is not looking nearly what it looks like now. Thank you.
Thank you. Next committee is Public Safety Services. Step up to the microphone. Who's speaking?
Good evening, everyone. I apologize, I don't have any props for you tonight, but we did put a handout.
Who are you?
Patrick Trincasi, Vice Chair of Public Safety. So just to go across what Gary had said, the numbers that we were given on the 27th at the meeting for the police officers in the precinct were a little bit lower. We were told 125 police officers total. That equates out to 15 to 16 per tour. On average, that's 5 to 6 cars a tour with one 311 car and one supervisor car. So keep that in mind that when there's an arrest made or anything happens, that's a car out. So, 4, 5 cars at max at any time in the precinct. All of the numbers on the crime for year to date were handed out to you. So that's year to date, 28-day, and year to date from 24 to 25. So the meeting took place on February 27th via Zoom, started at 7:01 p.m. I'll just go over the highlights with you. Representatives from the 104th Precinct were Detective Mike Barish and Officer Bonilla. We reviewed the crime statistics, which you have. Overall, crime is trending downward in the area, which is typical over the winter months and is a positive sign. We hope that it continues. We reviewed the arrests and summonses, which you have in your folder as well, with a focus on deploying neighborhood coordination officers at the most critical times. So what that means is your NCOs may not be on a regular tour. Based on the way the dynamics in the area change, they may change their tours. One of the major concerns that we spoke about was a rise in subway surfing incidents, both locally and citywide. The 104th Precinct is working on prevention through youth education, social media monitoring, and outreach to families. Meanwhile, the MTA is exploring physical deterrence and increasing public awareness of the dangers. We discussed the various scams targeting our community, including gift card fraud, unlicensed contractor scams. Please remain cautious and hire only reputable and insured professionals. Parking enforcement remains a priority, particularly violations near hydrants, crosswalks, and bus lanes, especially along the Fresh Prawn corridor. Additionally, mail theft is on an increase in the Liberty Park area, and the precinct is closely monitoring the issue. Finally, enforcement efforts against illegal cannabis shops continue in coordination with the Sheriff's Department. The meeting ended at 8:24. We encourage residents to stay informed, report suspicious activity, and work together to keep our community safe. Anything?
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Not individual. If you're asking a question, please be recognized by the chair. Who are you? What's your question?
I apologize for not addressing the chair. I'm Edward Letow from Ridgewood, and I just wanted, Patrick, because I'm on the Public Safety Committee also, just to point out two things that the audience may not have who were interested in about mopeds and e-bikes. The 104th gave summonses to 29 mopeds, and they took those mopeds away. E-bike tickets were $394, so this is from the precinct, from the officers, just to let the people know about what's going on. And that's all I wanted to point out.
Thank you.
Year to date also.
Okay, nothing else? We'll go to transportation, sir. Hold on. Microphone.
Hi, I'm Betsy from Ridgewood. I was also on the Public Safety Committee. Thank you for hosting that. I just wanted to address the public around, I know that there are concerns around parking and hydrants given the fire that happened in Ridgewood at least. And so in the committee meeting, we talked about what do you do if you see a car parked in a driveway or you see a car parked near a hydrant? And the recommendation from the police officers were to call 311 and go in about it that way versus calling 911. And so I just wanted to kind of address that, and then to follow up on the summons, back to the car bike thing, there were 1,200 hydrant summons against the 394 e-bike ones, and then there were 209 red lights, and then around 350 speeding tickets. And so I think as we talk about the topic that is about to happen, I think it's also important to see the other side of the situation. So thank you.
Did, Betsy, did they say how many of those 1,200 were towed away from the hydrant?
I did not specifically ask for that because, you know,
No,
what
we
happens
didn't
to
get
cars.
an answer. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. We'll go to transportation services then.
Good evening, everybody. So there's 3 updates I want to give you, then there's a call to action on the full board. So I'll jump into those updates really quick. The committee met on February 25th at 7:30 p.m. That was at the board office. As you know, we always hear traffic and pedestrian safety requests. Someone came to us with a request, and that request was for universal daylighting. We took it under careful consideration as a committee. We had detailed discussion on it, and ultimately we decided as a committee to reaffirm our longstanding policy that targeted daylighting in the neighborhood is extremely important to safety, but that the committee was against this universal daylighting approach that's one size fits all. We're not in favor of a one-size-fits-all solution. We're in favor, and this has been the long-standing position of the committee, in favor of targeted daylighting where it's needed. And we voted to that effect, and we sent a letter of support to that effect to the council member and the DOT, because there's a movement now in the city to change that policy, and that has been the policy of New York City for quite some time, too. So we voted to express our support in keeping that policy as it is in New York City. And on a similar note, if you see anything in the neighborhood where you think a corner needs daylighting for safety, please call the office and let them know, so as a committee we could consider it, because there are intersections that need it, and you guys are our eyes and ears on the ground, both in the public and the committee members, so please do let us know. The bus network redesign, hotly anticipated. We have an update. The MTA board voted to approve it. And fortunately or unfortunately, depending on your point of view, it's approved as is with the addendum. That means we have a split Q38, which is now 2 bus lines. What you're going to see now right away is the MTA is putting up 2 sets of signs. So you'll see the old bus signs, and they're putting up a new set of bus signs together so you can see the change in route. The idea is so you could see it before it just happens, so you don't show up one day and be like, hey, where's my bus? Then starting, it's a 2-phase rollout in June and August. So June is going to be the first phase of the rollout in Queens. August should be the complete ending phase of the rollout. So that's going to happen quickly, and I want to make sure everybody knows about that. Traffic and pedestrian safety, on that point, if you see something in a neighborhood, please call the board office. Let them know. Our next meeting is on March 25th at 7:30 p.m. in the board office. Please, if you want to attend, you're welcome. Just give the board office a heads up beforehand so we could confirm that there's enough room. But if you want to come, you're welcome. Now, this is where it gets to the call of action on the board. And this pertains to Priscilla's Law. So I want to give some background here on how this got to the committee. We actually received a letter from Bronx Community Board 8. And we really didn't expect a letter from Bronx Community Board 8. But this is a letter they directed to every single community board in New York City, ours included. And they informed us that they voted 24 in favor with 3 opposed, a resolution in support of Priscilla's Law. And I'll explain what that is in a second. And they felt compelled to let all the other community boards in New York City know about this and encourage them to pass resolutions to the same effect. So what is Priscilla's Law? Well, Priscilla was a 68-year-old teacher in Chinatown who was run down by an e-bike and killed in 2023. And in response to this, it was actually our local council member, Robert Holden, who introduced a bill to license not just e-bikes. It's e-bikes, electric-assisted bikes. It's scooters, electric scooters, and other vehicles which are street legal but do not need to be licensed by the DMV to be operated. This includes electric and gasoline. So you see some gas bikes out too which don't have a license that might be street legal. Those are covered by this too. And I know, and just to gauge, for everyone to gauge what this looks like as far as supporting the council, there's 27 sponsors. So there's 51 members of the council and 27 sponsors. That's over half. And that's just sponsors. We're not talking about votes of support. This is the sponsors. We have over half. And just to read some names that may sound familiar to some people: Justin Brannon, Eric Dinowitz, James Gennaro, Sean Abreu, Sandra Ung, Linda Lee, Susan Zhuang, Darlene Mealy, Francisco Moya, Rafael Salamanca Jr., Farrah Lewis, Chris Banks, and our local council members, Robert Holden and Joanne Ariola, just to name a few. That's not even the full listing of sponsors. So this is widely supported across different progressive, mainstream, Democrat, Republican, widely supported. So the committee discussed this and discussed it in detail. And we took a vote. And the committee voted 10 in favor with 2 opposed and 1 abstention in favor of this bill, but not just in favor of writing a letter of support inspired by Bronx Community Board 8 to the other community boards and to our elected officials, announcing that we support this. And we think this is important. I know early on some concerns were raised. I just want to address some of this. The bill jacket does say this is an agency rulemaking required in this bill. And that's actually a good thing, because if it's written in the law, you can't adapt. If there's rulemaking required, and this is a very important part of city government, you have the law set by council and the rulemaking promulgated by agencies. That rulemaking allows adaptability. So if the council puts details in the bill and the mayor signs that, everyone's stuck. You can't change it. But if the agency is allowed to rulemake, you could adapt to make sure it works based on changing climate. So that's important. And as a committee, we discussed this in intricate detail. It was a very long discussion, and ultimately we voted 10 in support of those specific things. And we think it's really important not just to come from the committee, but just as Bronx Community Board 8 did, it's important to come from the full board. So we're asking the full board to ratify this committee report so that we could proceed in alerting the other community boards, inspired by Bronx Community Board 8, of the importance of this, of the effects it will have on our neighborhood, and to write to our local electeds in the council that we voted in support. And that's a committee report. It doesn't need a motion, but it does need a vote.
Just state it succinctly so we know what you...
Yeah. The committee report is in favor of Priscilla's Law, which is Intro 606. Part of this vote would be in favor of writing to our council members of the area of support and writing to the other community boards in New York City expressing our support.
So what the committee, let me state it first. Sure. We would be voting in favor of Intro 606. On the question, who are you? What do you have to say?
Lee Rottenberg on the committee. I just wanted to add one quick thing. The cost for registration is not going to be anything expensive. It'll only be like a few dollars. It's not a matter of raising money for it. It's just for the paperwork. So it's not like going to be expensive.
And just for the ladies over here, that's why we had this long discussion with the people on 606 before. Yes, who are you? What's your...
Oh, okay. Fred Hofferly from Ridgewood. I think some of the speakers that we heard earlier, which prompted me to jot down some notes, and it's interesting. It's worth noting that currently all the car drivers, automobile drivers, really pay for all the safety conditions that do currently exist. They are responsible for, the existing traffic lights because they get ticketed. Paved roads are also covered by the costs of whether it's parking meters, gasoline taxes, the inspection fees, and also registration fees. And I think, and all the other summonses that might occur, but to register the e-bikes, I think makes a little more sense because they're asking for a lot of the conditions for safety improvement. And at the same time, there is no accountability for them to contribute to some of these expenses. So by registering the bikes, and licensing them, at least there would be some fair sharing of the expenses for all the roads that are also shared. And cars parking on the roads is not, someone mentioned that it's not a right, it's a privilege, but it's the cars, the drivers, that pay for those roads to be paved and the parking meters that allow them to park there. So that's the comment I wanted to make.
Okay. On the left side, who are you? What's your...
Rachel Karachi, Glendale. Isn't that just taxes? Because you cannot walk but pay taxes, and you're paying for roads you can't drive on. I mean, pedestrians pay. I hesitate to, it seems really fiscally irresponsible to be like, here, you regulate this to the DOT, who seems to have their hands full. They grade a street, and it takes months. The people who use this for livelihood, for getting to and from school, for getting to and from work, like, do they just not have transportation for, like, I would like a little bit more structure to the whole idea before it's like, this is great, because I feel like it's very broad. And my kid, who's 10, has an electric razor, he needs a light, I mean, he's 10. And technically, if you go on Amazon, they're like, oh, it's for 14 and up, but it's literally like this big. But we're not so adamant about things like universal daylighting, which is just, it feels like we're gonna paint this with a broad brush, everybody licensed, but this we want specific intersections and we want control over that. So it's kind of like, it's confusing to me. It seems very specific, because again, the sector that this affects is tiny, and daylighting affects literally everyone who lives on the streets and doesn't drive and drives and walks and has a bike. Like, it's literally everyone using an intersection. So it's confusing to me. I'm just gonna put it out there.
Anyone else? Who are you? Where are you from?
Hi, I'm Betsy, again, also still living in Ridgewood. And so hearing about Priscilla's law from you, Eric, was really interesting, because it sounds like clearly there's a want and a need to protect pedestrians, right? It was a person who got hit by an e-bike, Aunt Priscilla, and I understand, and I think we can all, on the community board, align behind that, and I don't think any of us want a way in which we make the streets unsafe, right? I think where I struggle, similar to Rachel, is I don't know if the solution is to regulate e-bikes, or if the solution to make walking on the street a thing around infrastructure, And so I think I really struggle with, is this something that I would support when I think that the problem is much bigger? And I'll just make one other point about cars, because that's like a thing, is, hang on, let me open my notes. Okay, people feel unsafe. We heard earlier from Patrick Shinkazy around public safety. We saw the number of summons that happen. Hydrants park in front of cars. Cars park in front of hydrants. That, is also an issue for the public safety. And in the public community, in the public safety committee meeting where I was talking to, we talked about the decrease in crime, and one of the things we're like, yeah, we just go and park our cars in highly trafficked areas to prevent pedestrians from getting hit. So if we need more cops because they are overworked, people feel unsafe, isn't there a better solution? Universal daylighting, better infrastructure that could solve a lot of our problems in one fell swoop. So that is how I feel personally. So thank you.
Okay, still on the left side.
Hi,
Yes.
Chris from Maspeth. Is there anything in Priscilla's law that explicitly says that we can't pursue all the other things. It sounds like we're conflating either safety measures or regulating bikes. I don't know that regulating electric vehicles makes us more unsafe, makes us less safe. So there's nothing, this is,
The bill is certainly not, it's certainly not mutually exclusive, and there's no prohibition in the bill for these other safety measures. As you often hear in my committee reports every month, action are taken by the committee to help make the neighborhood safer every month. And we want to continue doing that, and we think it's incredibly important to keep doing that. So those actions won't stop and can't stop, because we have to keep continuing to make the streets safe. But I think partially to the point you're making, just because we're doing one, we could do other things too. And I think a big thing here, and another thing that came up in committee discussion, is really accountability. There's folks on bikes, and I want to be clear, it's not just e-bikes, it's e-scooters and gasoline-powered vehicles that don't have to be registered with the DMV currently. There is no accountability. And all of us who have been going around the neighborhood the last few years, we've all seen an increase of people driving recklessly, whether it's in cars, on motorized vehicles of any type, including unlicensed ones. And I've seen, just on Metropolitan Avenue and on Fresh Pond, weaving through traffic, even around cops, you can't find these people. You can't catch up to them. It's actually more dangerous for the cop to chase them for pedestrians, so you just let them go for protection of safety of people around them. If there was a plate, there would be accountability. And now you could argue that no matter what you do, people who break the law aren't going to get a plate, but at least now you're narrowing that segment of people to the absolute worst of lawbreakers.
can I add also that I work beside the 34th Avenue Park Road shared space. It is a very wide shared between bikes and pedestrians, and I've got lots of anecdotes I could share. There's lots of rooms and lots of DOT design safety measures that aren't working, and so if all we do is rely on the safety measures that aren't currently actually working, I have a student last year broke his elbow, hit by an e-bike, missed his senior year of basketball. We could see on the camera exactly who it was, but we have no idea who hit him. So that's an anecdote. That's all.
Thank you. On the right side, who are you? Where you from? Don't. Gotta leave it on.
Peggy O'Kane from Ridgewood. It seems to me this bill is addressing reckless behavior. No amount of infrastructure or safer roads or what have you is going to prevent a person from driving around, zooming back and forth, going the wrong way against traffic or anything like that. What we're addressing is people who are driving recklessly and injuring people. It does not preclude fixing the roads or finding us evil car drivers. We're just trying to get, if somebody kills you with an e-bike, at least you can find out who he is.
Thank you. Behind you with the microphone, please. Don't turn it off.
Oh. Diego Leclerc, Ridgewood, is that? So I guess before we vote on the bill, it seemed like some of the people in the public forum were talking about the effectiveness of the bill, that cities that have introduced this bill have then gone on to change their minds about it. I certainly wouldn't want us to support something that has been proven to be ineffective. And also from my understanding, mopeds have to be licensed in the state of New York, and 606 would not be changing anything about that. So yeah, definitely I think we should be asking the success rate of such legislation in other cities like New York.
Yes, who's next?
Dennis Steffen, Maspeth. The thing that I struggle with is that the elected officials who worked so hard to get this to the finish line thought putting it in the hands of the DOT was the way to go. I just, you know, these are the same people we put outdoor dining sheds in their hands, which I just don't get. So whether you think it's a good idea or not, putting it in the hands of the DOT is just where, I mean, I don't ride a bike. I do drive a car. I respect people who ride a bike. I think it's great. But I I can't sit here in good conscience and say the DOT are the right people to manage this at all.
Thank you. So, pass the mic over, please.
Okay, good, I got it.
Who are you?
Charles Ober, Ridgewood. I have two comments. One is, two statistics were being used as support, and they're not really comparable. So 1,200 hydrants, they're stationary vehicles sitting for hours in a location, easy mark to give them a ticket. The 394 e-bikes, which the committee chair did mention, the police have pointed out they have a very small percentage of the ones they know that are misbehaving that they're actually able to catch and write tickets. So moving vehicles, very hard to catch, and 1,200 parked cars are not really comparable statistics. They were used as support, in opposition to the bill. I don't think this bill is perfect, but we have to do something. And what I like particularly is the requirement for insurance. Right now, pedestrians that are hurt, they have no redress for their $100,000 medical bills unless they are lucky enough to have good insurance. So I think that is a major, major consideration. Nothing, I mean, you could be against something because it's not perfect, and this is something that needs to be addressed, so I support it for that reason.
Thank you. Walter Sanchez.
Typically, I mean, the state is really doing the registration of vehicles. I heard that Assemblywoman Rajkumar supported this. Is there a state bill that's supported, that's going to be for registration of e-bikes?
It seems that there may be some progress there too. I think what's important to note is that issues in New York City is a very unique place. We have unique problems. And New York State's a very big place. And although we could lobby our local state representatives to pass certain regulations on a state base, and they could vicariously argue on our behalf, the reality is folks in Poughkeepsie, in Orange County, et cetera, don't have these issues. What we have before us here is a real tangible thing that could pass with 27 out of 51 council members sponsoring it. So this is our real change.
No,
if something happens at a later point at the state level, that's great, but this is what we have before us that's possible, and it could happen now.
So I'm struggling with a couple of things as well that was mentioned. I mean, we all want accountability. We feel that some of the recklessness out there needs accountability and insurance. But I also struggle with the DOT. They're not going to be able to do this. They're in shambles as it is. I don't trust them at all. And I would really love to know why it was turned around in other cities, because I look at that and I say that there's got to be some reasons. Did you look into that at all?
Okay.
Well, what I...
No.
Well, no, just yes or no. I mean, did you guys look into that, why it was turned around in other cities?
What I always say is you can't compare to New York City, because New York City is its own beast. We have our own budget that is beyond what most countries have. And what we could accomplish in New York City is non-comparable to what, let's say, Seattle could accomplish.
All right. So I'm going to give my opinion and we'll move the question. It's my opinion that we're moving in the wrong direction. If we believe these vehicles need to be registered and insured and everything else, we should be petitioning the Department of Motor Vehicles, the state, to require all these vehicles that are pedaled or motorized to be registered, licensed, and insured. Because it's my opinion, no matter what the city says, is not legal. We don't have the right to require registration of motorized vehicles. That's all my opinion. One more and then we end it.
As a rebuttal to that,
Keep turning it off.
As a rebuttal to what you said, the city does have a right to override state rules. I'll give you one quick example.
Not correct.
Gun permits.
Not correct.
The city has stricter rules for gun permits than anywhere else in New York State.
But that was approved by the state legislature that allowed the city to do it. The way the laws work, it's federal, state, local. The local laws do not override the state or the federal.
And one last quick thing. If the electric vehicles and motorized, like two-wheel vehicles, have plates, then they can be held liable when they go through red lights.
Correct.
And when they speed, which now
Correct.
they just do randomly. And a lot of the electric vehicles we know can go over 20 miles an hour, 25 miles an hour, and with the lower speed limits, that's speeding.
Okay? But it's the state's responsibility for the registration of motorized or other. I think in the law it states a vehicle is a motorized vehicle, because I got in trouble with it as a youth, a teenager, is anything that's moved other than muscle power. So when we were pushing this car down the street and the police came and gave us a summons, and we went before the judge and we said, "It has no engine, Your Honor." We were pushing it and he agreed, other than muscle power, all right? Could you move the question?
Yeah, I just one thing to add, Vinny. There is not an insurance requirement in this bill. This is merely license plates. So this doesn't touch upon insurance. And just on the final point of home rule law and conflicts of laws, that's a very complex legal question.
Wait,
And-
I gotta interrupt you.
Yeah.
If it only requires a license plate, what is it doing?
It's accountability.
How? No one can enforce it because it's a state law and there's no state law requiring that. Who's gonna say this motorized vehicle or bicycle has no license plate?
Well, there are many municipal laws which do carry fines, and that would be part of the rulemaking process. So it would not be unprecedented for local laws to carry fines set up through the public rulemaking process, which has its own public hearings, and that's of course enforced by the NYPD or other law enforcement groups or peace officers in
So
the city.
I'm gonna go off the wall and say, I could get a city summons for not having an address on my mailbox. Okay?
Okay.
Same thing. Is that logical?
Well, I think as with all local laws, there has to be an enforcement mechanism, and there is under the law. And likewise, there will be an enforcement mechanism here. It will be set up through the rulemaking authority of the DOT. And as far as the legal question of authority, home rule law, and I could say this as an attorney, is extremely complicated, and there's no clear-cut answer. And most of the time, any question of home rule law and conflict of laws between a municipality and the state is not something that's often decided as a clear-cut question, and it's really a debate and an argument. And the proper venue for that would be the courts. But right now we have 27 council members who are sponsors. Clearly, the attorneys at the New York City Council who have put this together feel that this is something supported by law and that is legal to pass, given that we have 27 sponsors. And the committee did vote 10 in favor to oppose to this. The committee of this board was overwhelmingly in support, and the committee does ask that you join us in supporting this bill.
Thank you. Move the question.
Move the question.
Start from the bottom, Mr. G.
From the bottom. All right. Mariana Zero. In favor, yeah? Okay. Jasmine Valley?
I abstain, sorry.
I'm sorry, it's a yes or no.
No, I can abstain. I work for the judicial branch of government, so that's an abstention.
Oh, all right. She has reason to abstain, sir. Thank you, Jasmine. Patrick Trinchesi. Barbara Toscano. Katarzyna Sita. Against? Dennis Steffen. Lily Scarabino? Against? Walter Sanchez? Against? Lee Rottenberg? Luis Rodriguez? Ted Renz? Ken Rayberger? Don Passantino? Michael O'Kane? Peggy O'Kane? Charles Ober? Naho Matsuzawa? Against? Ed Littau? Diego Lecleary? Against, right? Sometimes it's hard for me to hear. Paul Kersner? Fred Hofferly? Chris Herman? Daniel Heredia?
What's your conflict?
He works for an elected official who could be voting on this. Gail Grabowski? 4? Matty Gonzalez? Dory Figliola? 4. Stephen Fiedler? Against. Dmitro Fitkowski? 4. Walter Clayton? 4. Betsy Chen? Deepak Chowdhury? Rachel Karachi? Eric Buckowitz?
4.
Jessica Boyardi? Carol Benovic Bradley? Mr. Arcuri? Okay.
Thank you. While Gary, I can't hear you without a microphone, and for the tape, say who you are, where you're from, and what the subject is. It's a little green light on there.
Here we go. Sorry, Vinny. It's Carol from Ridgewood. Could I ask another committee question while we're tallying?
I'm sorry?
Could I ask another committee-related
Oh, a
question?
Transportation Committee question? Sure.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Thanks for the report, Eric. Could you tell us some of the reasons why the committee was opposed to universal daylighting, what some alternate infrastructure or policy improvements they proposed were? And you mentioned there was a letter signed against universal daylighting, I guess. Was that signed by the committee, or who was that addressed from?
So to take the questions in order, the committee, it was a long discussion, and it really turned down to a cost-benefit analysis. And to tell you the truth, the individual who put in this pedestrian and safety request was given 15 minutes of presentation time, arguing in favor, and an additional 15 minutes of answered questions from the committee. So this wasn't a small agenda item, and it was something the committee took extremely seriously. And he was a major advocate. He's actually a citywide advocate for this. So we heard every argument against or for universal daylighting, including its applications in other cities. And what the committee really did was looking at what we like to do in our neighborhoods and looking at different intersections and different blocks. There are certain blocks where we don't have this issue. But we do have a consistent parking issue, and it comes down to a cost benefit. If we don't have a safety issue at that intersection, because we don't have that problem with the turning, in part because a lot of these intersections are actually at the beginning of the block, not the end. So at the end of the block, there is an argument to be made that most of those intersections need to be daylit, but at the initiating portion of the block, you're turning onto the block. So there's not a visibility issue in most of those cases. So that's one portion on why just 50% of the corners are out of the question on the universal portion, because they're incoming corners which don't have that same visibility issue. And then you look at the other end. So let's look at the outgoing intersections, where on very crowded, on very busy streets, like what I always say is by the Islamic Center on Myrtle Avenue, There's 2 spots of daylighting, and that's not enough. So we're trying to get a traffic light there. So there's intersections in the neighborhood that are horrendous and need more than daylighting or extra daylighting. There's other intersections in quieter parts of the neighborhood, or maybe where there's a larger, just where the geometry is different, where you actually never have a visibility issue. So it's unfair to the people who are there, businesses and residents, to take away those parking spots when it doesn't have a benefit. So the committee has always, and this is the citywide policy actually of New York City and has been, from my understanding, for decades, is to take daylighting on a case-by-case basis and then implement it where it needs to be. And the DOT has been extremely accommodating in CB5 at processing these requests and giving us that daylighting. And that's what we as a committee at the end of this 45-minute plus discussion ended up, that was the best thing that serves all the competing interests in our neighborhood, but also maximizes safety at the same time. And there's a second part, it was a letter. So the committee often sends letters that just are from the committee. So that's not unusual, and this is one of the letters which just was signed by the committee. And that's pretty normal for pedestrian and traffic safety requests, and they often go to the DOT. So we do that 10, 15 times or so every month. It would be, we would consider that committee work, and it would be impractical to take every one of those to the full board. But when it's a larger matter like Intro 606, that's something that we don't want to keep on committee, we want to bring to the full board.
Thanks.
Over here, who are you? Where you from? What's the subject? Got to be a microphone.
He's got one right here in front of me. Give it to the guy behind you.
Charles got it. I got it, I'm sorry.
Diego Leclerc from Ridgewood. The advocate that came to present to the committee, 3 questions. One was he able to give his presentation? Was he able to actually show what he meant by daylighting to the committee? Secondly, how many daylighting requests would you say the committee is able to handle on a monthly basis? And then third, how long does it usually take for these daylighting requests to be enacted?
Yeah, so the advocate who did come to the committee was originally allocated 5 minutes of presentation time, and we extended him to over 45 minutes.
Was there any visual, was he able to present his presentation to the committee?
A presentation was shared with the full committee after the meeting, so everyone was able to view his slides. Oh, my apologies. How long would it take? It depends, but it's usually, let's say, a couple months, give or take, for an intersection to be looked at by the DOT and a change to be implemented. It could be longer, it could be shorter, depending on timetables, but I would say 2 to 3 months are probably a good goalpost to go by.
How many can we handle each month?
Well, as a traffic and pedestrian safety request, you're welcome, please put them in if you have intersections that are in need. And as a committee, there's maybe only so many we could hear depending on what else is on the agenda every month, but we'll get through them. So put them in, we'll be happy to investigate.
On this side,
Also, it should be noted that the New York City DOT does not recommend universal daylighting. They're opposed to it. And one thing that,
how do you know that?
it's on the website. If you read it, I downloaded the website, and you can look on it, Google it, you'll see. The DOT does not recommend it. One reason is that there's 8 spots where they would be daylighting. Each daylighting takes up 2 cars, so you'd be losing 16 parking spaces at every intersection if you do universal daylighting, and that would be a major problem. Oh, and also, part of universal daylighting is putting physical blockades at each daylighting intersection. So they'd be putting rocks or bricks or some structure to keep cars from parking there illegally. Otherwise, it won't be enforced. So that also has other implications like snow removal and safety hazards when trucks are turning.
Okay, so I think there are others. Charles Ober Ridgewood. Thank you. So I think there's some other solutions. For instance, in my block, we had atrocious accidents. There were no stop signs. And there were ambulances coming, people, huge crashes in the middle of the night. And this was like every month. And they were running right into the storefront and smashing all the cars on the side. First, they put 2 stop signs. That didn't work. Finally, they put 4 stop signs. That has actually worked. I rarely ever hear an accident. So what I'm just saying is there may be other solutions that work better than daylighting. I don't know if daylighting stops people running through the intersection and smashing into each other. So there is, it's not a clear-cut answer is what what I'm saying. There are other solutions.
I want to report the prior vote with regard to Intro 606, Priscilla's Law, the registering of e-bikes and other vehicles on a city level. And the vote was 19 in favor, 15 opposed, and 2 abstentions. So it passes.
Thank you. Any other committees I failed to recognize? Okay. Any old business? Any new business? Hold on, don't leave yet. We're not finished.
Two very quick things. First, there's juniper berries on the table over there. The Juniper Civic is having a meeting on March 20th at 7:30. That's next Thursday at Our Lady of Hope. And also the cannabis place that we all had mixed opinions on, the legal marijuana store on 74th Street, Metropolitan Avenue. They're actually having their 1-year anniversary this week, and they're having all kinds of activities there. So.
Okay. Okay, anything else? When's the next meeting, Mr. G? Next meeting is April 9th. Do I have a motion to, anything else? Yes. Hold on, anything else? Okay, motion to adjourn, Walter Clayton. Seconded. All in favor? Thank you.